This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation.
¿Escuchas? Que no sé si
Something
me
was
escuchan en
very
el directo, la
clearly
verdad.
wrong.
Vamos a ver.
Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and
Ahora se me
regained his
escucha, hostia.
senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his
Oh,
office.
oh, oh. A ver, chavales, somos una puta ovejita, ¿vale? No he leído la verdad una puta mierda de lo que me ha dicho el men este, pero vamos a jugar, vamos a jugar. Vale, vamos a jugar. No se puede entrar. La X hace algo, pero no sé para qué vale.
All of his co-workers were
Todos sus
gone.
colegas se hayan ido.
What could it
Acabo de
mean?
verse. Oh,
Stanley
shit.
decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
¿Qué rea es esta?
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Cruzo por la de izquierda. Vámonos. Esto me da más rollo que se cierre la puerta, Me da un puto más rollo que se cierre la puerta que te caga, A ver qué coño hacemos. Vale, seguimos. Solo estaba comprobando que se escucha en el directo. 437 era nuestra habitación, 427 o algo así, ¿no? Uy. Vamos a ver salas de reuniones.
Yet there was not a single person here either.
Nadie.
Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Mira, chavales. Yo de mayor voy a estar aquí, ¿vale? Voy a estar aquí de mayor yo, con mi puta pizarra. Don't after without that. Esta es mi puta pizarra aquí y aquí van a estar todos los putos ovejitas que tengo contratados. Todos mis putos ovejitas. Y le voy a decir, mirad. ¡Yeah! Es decir, tú. El boquete de lomo, tráemelo. Hijo de puta. Seguimos jugando. Si entro me la voy a llevar.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Vale, vámonos.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
¿Y si no voy por ahí, qué pasa?
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk?
Que tomo
All
decisiones.
because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy.
Hostia, puto más
And then
decisiones.
something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went?
Real.
And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating?
Algo está pasando,
Stanley
chavales.
said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming! he yelled. "This is all a
Qué bonito,
dream."
tío.
Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking?
Algo está pasando, chavales.
Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd, and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams,
Dice por aquí Josan que comente, tío, pero es que estoy escuchando esto, está interesante, tío.
How could it be?
Cuando deje de hablar el puto notas este,
believing
comento.
that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a
Me
dream.
estoy fijando mucho en la habitación, a
So
ver si
he
ataca
closed his
algo.
eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Vale. Pues no hemos despertado en el mismo sitio donde estábamos,
Please, someone wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
No. No me puedo mover.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
No, Mariela.
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't.
Espero que esta mierda no se la juego,
It
¿no?
was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body.
Eso como se enrolla el puto notas este, tío. A ver si se cae allá. Vale. Vale. Ay, a ver qué pasa. 427.
All of his co-workers were gone, What could it mean?
Hacho.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a
Otra
memo.
vez, tío, a ver, loco. ¿Y por qué no hay luz, tío, fuera? No sé de qué mira este juego, me estoy rayando, tío. Igual tengo que hacer algo, tío.
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but
Correcto.
it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
Hay algo que no sé. Vale. No toca las putas puertas. Claro, antes hemos tomado
Stanley
la
came to a
izquierda,
set
¿no?
of two open
Vamos por la
doors.
derecha.
He
A
entered
ver
the
qué coño
door.
pasa.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well.
Lo sabía muy bien, sí.
Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Vale. Vale.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after
Vale.
all, just to
Qué
spend
bueno.
a few moments here in this immaculate, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Buf. ¿Qué coño es esto, macho? Ya, esto da un poco mal rollo, eh. Tengo dos habitaciones para elegir. Tengo esta y la otra. ¿Dónde voy, Dios? ¿Vuelvo a la izquierda? ¿Vuelvo?
And so he detoured through the maintenance
No.
section, walked
Hola,
straight
hola.
ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Hostias. No. No sé dónde estoy yendo, de verdad, chavales.
But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off
Vale.
track. So now, in order to get back, he needed to go, from here, it's, left.
A la izquierda. Esta no se puede abrir, ¿no? No. O sí. Nada. Vale. Todavía no entiendo muy bien el juego.
Oh,
de qué
no.
coño-
No, it's
¡Hijo de
to the right,
puta!
my mistake.
Hijo de puta.
No,
este
not
que...
the right.
Hijo de puta.
Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please?
Hijo de puta me estaba tirando, eh.
Now, let's see. We went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes.
Estoy bueno,
I've got it
hostia.
now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
¿Qué es esto, tío? Vale, bajamos por aquí. Todavía no entiendo qué cojones es esto. ¿Qué cojones es esto?
No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler.
¡Hijo de
Quick,
puta!
Stanley,
Me
close your
está
eyes.
controlando desde aquí.
Okay. We just have to get back to...
Hijo de puta, me está... Mira, me
who
está
am I
controlando desde
kidding?
aquí.
It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning.
No,
And this
no,
time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top.
Vale, vamos a hacer una cosa. ¿Y si seguimos las instrucciones del juego y dejamos de hacer el puto retrasado? Vamos a probar, ¿no? Vamos a probar a seguir las putas instrucciones. ¿O sí? Venga, va.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Vale.
Stanley decided to go to the
Bueno,
meeting
sí,
room.
cállate, vale.
Perhaps he had
Vamos
simply
a
missed
pulsar
a
de
memo.
reunión, tío. De momento, por lo que veo, es una historia en la que hay un puto narrador que me está manipulando todo el rato. Y si yo sigo sus putas instrucciones, pues imagino que mira, pilla.
When Stanley... Wait, what? No,
Eh?
no, I restarted. I swear, I definitely restarted the game
estoy?
over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Oh, did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors?
I
Did you
don't touch
move
anything,
the
bro.
story somewhere, or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story. It was right here just a minute ago. I know for
¿Qué?
sure that it's here somewhere.
Me voy a decir mi madre
Okay, then.
prostituta. Mentira, no.
It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
Vale, puedo elegir una puerta por lo que veo, ¿no? A ver, ¿cuál me llama más la atención? No sé por qué, pero como que esta me llama la atención. Parece acogedora. Esta sí me parece muy acogedora, ¿eh? Me sentaría aquí, tío. Me sentaría aquí, aprezaría como, no sé. A ver. Vamos aquí, como hacia atrás. Te empezamos con las lecciones, me toca el huevo. Esto es un puto lío, cabrón. Vamos por aquí.
I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can
Bueno, hijo
promise you
mío,
there
un poco
definitely
más para mí
was a
interesante.
story here before. Do we need to restart the game again? Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again, but it's got to be better than
¿Y dónde
this.
estamos, tío?
Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not?
Me cago en la puta madre reiniciar el juego, tío. Venga, otra vez, quinta vez que lo hago. Vamos.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a
Era por
memo.
aquí. Por aquí, izquierda. Algo se ha confundido otra vez, tío. Se ha confundido otra
Okay,
vez, tío.
it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
Venga, a ver. Algo que pase por alto. Porque esta puerta está abierta, esta vuelta, por ejemplo. No sé cómo salen las puertas, la verdad. A ver, algo me tengo que dejar por aquí. A ver, una cosa. Configuración. Controles. Pausa, interactuar, mirar, moverse, agacharse, vale.
Aha! I knew we'd miss something.
Hostia,
The
¿qué coño?
story. Here it comes.
Hostia, esta es. Ya voy a volver al despacho y un pasillo por la cara.
No, wait. Never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps.
Vale. Vale. Dios, qué puto mal rollo.
Now this... Well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all.
¿Qué coño es esto,
Is this
tío?
the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe
La
my story
puta
took place
casa
in an
ayudado del
office
ascensor, hijo de
building.
puta.
Is that correct?
Me fío cero.
Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win! Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job. Oh, no. No, I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay, I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time, I have to restart.
Vale. Ay, otra vez, tío, venga. Vale.
All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make
Vale.
sure we don't get lost,
Mi
I've
línea para la
employed
puta
the
aventura.
help of the Stanley Parable Adventure Line. Just follow the line. How simple is that?
Yo no sé qué hacer esta mierda, tío. Vale, por aquí no íbamos antes, tío. Bueno, venga, vamos a seguir la puta historia, tío. Si no me hubiese
You
cambiado de
see,
sitio.
the line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what? I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood.
Exacto. Me amo la puta, tío. Me amo la puta. Me ha agarrado el tío. Creo que voy a hacer un directo con esta música. Me amo la puta, por la música ya, y bueno.
Cut the music. Go
Gracias.
back and look at that fern.
Hacia la derecha,
Wait, what? We're back at the office? No.
Tiene pinta de Ivano.
No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a bell?
Pues no, a la vuelta. Por aquí, por aquí, por aquí, por aquí. Vamos a otra vez aquí.
No, not again, Line. How could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, you... Well, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart.
Pues nada, reiniciamos por quinta vez. Vale. Me da como el rabo ya este tío, Voy a seguir la línea última vez que la sigo, Te lo juro que si esto falla...
I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us?
Me estaba tirando de hablar y mira,
Why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious.
Déjame, hijo de puta.
Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
Vamos por aquí. Venga, mi pana.
Now, yes, this is exciting.
Sí,
Just me and Stanley
Navarro,
forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything.
Cómo me gusta
What do you
Navarro.
want our story to be? Go
Esta historia,
wild.
como que haya muchas
Use your
mujeres.
imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley,
Ajedrez a la otra.
I'm ready for it.
Qué guapo. Una historia con mujeres, tío, lo importante en esta vida. No me da el placer que una mujer. Y rima, boludo.
Oh, no, not you again.
Mira, puta
Stanley,
mierda,
I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms.
Se me
Just
ocurre una
don't
cosa.
acknowledge it.
No.
We should be fine.
Vale. Seguimos. La puta línea, hermano. Yo tengo amigos que siguen muchas líneas también. Quien entendió.
Ah, a
Vale.
choice. We get
Una
to make a
elección.
decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important
Es
we
importante
mustn't
que aprovechemos
squander
la
the
oportunidad.
opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere, the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with that counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits.
¿Y queda la mejor abrirla o no? El final de la confusión.
Oh, hold up, what's this?
Durante 17 minutos.
The confusion ending.
Ojo,
You're telling me
A ver.
that's what this is?
Primer
It's all
reinicio.
one
Volver
giant
a hacer el
ending?
mantenimiento. Llevar a danzar
And we're
monitor,
supposed to
no,
restart the game
de-
eight times? That's really how all
Ya
this
tienes la vida,
goes?
la vuelta en cuanto a la
It's all
aventura, música
determined?
filosófica sin sentido.
So now, according to the
monitores,
schedule, I
correcto.
restart again. Then what?
Vale.
Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this
Después de mucho tiempo.
thing.
¡Stanley muere!
wall. Well, who consulted me?
¿Cómo que muero,
How
cabrón?
do I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really?
Mi defensa espacial, amor en la
No,
oscuridad,
it can't
encuentra
be.
una librería,
I
aburrete y
don't want
vete,
it to
el
be.
narrador reinicia la
I
partida.
don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the
morir.
game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. And the timer stopped? Does that mean
¿Qué es esto?
did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The whatever it is that made
Viene
this
a romper el
schedule?
ciclo,
How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen? So, okay. I guess now we just wait. You know, I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story. Wouldn't you agree? I'm not
Sí,
quite
mira,
sure if we're in the
mientras tú me vas
destination
comiendo la
or the
cabeza.
journey. Though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you...
¿Qué coño? Yo no podía trabajar, tío, con una puta ovejita, tío. Déjame esta vida de sufrimiento, tío.
All of his co-workers were
Puedo
gone.
ponerse ahí,
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a
Ojo,
memo.
parece como el principio de verdad, Ojo, Vale, derecha.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Izquierda. Vamos a hacerlo bien. Va, última vez, Ya si me falla esta me rayo.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Venga, oficina. Uy, wow. Oficina de mi jefe. ¿Esto qué es? Espérate, pone. Marrón del ejecutivo. El baño. Es que no quiero entrar porque me da mal rollo. I have got the feeling. Money for stealing. Vale. Nada interesante. Es que me ha venido a pasar ya cualquier puerta. Voy a la principal, que supongo que este despacho. Esto no es un despacho, ¿verdad? Despacho real. ¿Cuál será, tío? A ver, clic este.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number. 2845.
2845.
But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad,
Soy un puto
Stanley
crack,
happened to input the
Me da
correct
cuenta,
code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Che, porque me han quitado ahora, tío, el punzón, tío. Qué puta mierda. Vale. A ver, se ha abierto una puerta un poco extraña. Oh, shit. Todo está monologado, La vida, tío, la vida es una puta película, chavales. ¿Os dais cuenta? No os dais cuenta, Ahora me voy. A ver si cerrará. Bueno. ¿Qué es esto? Hostia. Como que entro mucho, ¿no? Hermano, qué mal rollo. Ah, pero no voy a ningún lado. Vale. Bueno, el puto mal rollo me va a entrar ahí. Vale. Vale, vámonos. ¿A dónde vamos? A su mundo. Lloyd.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit
Comprendió que
peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Vale. Yes. Vale.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Vale. Esto pinta como si fuese abajo donde están todas las pantallas, ¿no? A ver si me confundo.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Vale. Tengo cámaras. Solo tengo ese botón, no, que quiero asegurarme de no, ya está.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Buah, ni antes soy yo seguro, tío. El puto mundo, tío, está dominado. Elon Musk. Porque antes esto es una puta parada. No sé hablar. Una paradoja, tío, de la mismísima vida, tío. Y el puto teléfono en nuestra pantalla, tío. Hacerme caso, eso es lo que digo. Vale, vamos hacia arriba, ¿no? Supongo.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
¿Hacia dónde voy a ir, tío?
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control.
Claro que sí, Ivana, que así funciona el mundo.
It was unthinkable, wasn't it?
Son marionetas
Was
de
it
poder,
even
tío.
possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
¿Qué coño? ¿Qué es eso?
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Ya veo las cosas que no entiendo aquí. A ver. Me gustaría ver primero todo antes. Esta bola de minta que se abre. No. Espérate. No. A ver si hemos venido por ahí arriba. ¿Hemos venido de aquí arriba? No. No, de aquí arriba no hemos venido. Aquí hay otro botón. No sé si entras por aquí, tío. Joder, mira. Está cerrado, tío. Está cerrado, entonces por aquí 100%. Vale, veo un botón aquí. My controls. Bueno, no se va a querer pulsar, pero están esperando que le pulse.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power. Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself.
Pues
Is
claro
that
que
what
sí,
you
cabrón.
wanted?
Así funciona el mundo, tío. Nos quejamos de que nos manipulan, pero tenemos el poder de hacer.
Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are said to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say, 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated. All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room.
Pues sí, joder, sí.
Buttons. No, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button. Or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? One solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is?
Espérate, pone 5.
Stanley,
Vale, pone 5.
you're in for quite a disappointment.
Pone 5.
But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here. Just you being blown to pieces.
427, 427.
To your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully?
El 4 dónde está, hostia. 427, pero eso no es el puto comando, tío.
It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say happily ever after.
Duele. Vale.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all. Blackness, and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes! He had won! He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. Stanley was happy. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
No, esto es nuevo. A ver.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Está bien, ¿no? No, 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 no.
The moment he entered his manager's office, Stanley froze in his tracks. Not a living soul anywhere. Could he really be all alone? This was too much for Stanley to take. Too much for any man to take. He fell to his knees, bursting into half moans, half sobs, the guttural retching of life from a man denied any hope, any reason to keep going. Here on the floor, he lay prone, paralyzed by fear for nearly a full hour. But when at last he began to move about and survey the situation, he found a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could it mean? Was it a sign of hope for Stanley's future? Alas, it was not. For although this keypad guarded the terrible secret of Stanley's past, it had been assigned a 4-digit code so devious and so random that no man could ever hope to guess it. 2845. Statistically, nearly impossible to guess blindly, ever. Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. Two, 8, 4, 5. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word Escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Ya que lo sabía.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly. And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Where were all of his co-workers? Oh, I don't know. How about they're throwing a surprise party for him for all his button pushing? Does that sound plausible to you?
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Turn off your PlayStation. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let...
A soft wind blew outside and perhaps rain started. And if it did, it... All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Oh, new content? What does that mean, new content?